Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here and welcome back for our last session of the International Winter School organized by Università Yulm with the support of FAO. First of all, let me apologize for the inconvenience of last week. Thank you very much for being here today again with us. So let's start from where we left. So let me introduce again Professor Russo and Professor Zito, who will be with us today. We have received some questions regarding the tools. So we will introduce again the topic of neuromarketing with some more details, and then we will answer to the questions that we didn't answer last week. If you have other questions, please, as usual, write them in the chat and we will answer them. So, Professor, I leave you the stage. So, thank you.
Okay. Thank you and welcome again. We can start again to talk about some question about the neuromarketing and neurogastrophysics. So the idea today is to talk about some explanation, in particular about the tools that we use, because we had received some question about which kind of tools we use in our lab in the neurogastrophysics field. And in the second part of my presentation, we will talk about the big problem, the main problem that we have in neuromarketing, in neuroscience, and the application of neuroscience in the business. The ethic problem, the application of these tools, strategy, but in particular, the application of a new paradigm about the decision-making process, the new paradigm about the unconscious mind, and so on. So, and at the end of my presentation, Margherita Zito will talk with you about some application and also about the ethic problem and how it's possible to use this approach in order to promote pro-social behavior and wellness. Anyway, I will start to share my screen. Of course, if you have some question, please use the chat for the questions. Okay. Okay. Do you see my presentation, Margherita?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So we talked about the neuromarketing. I remember you that the neuromarketing is a new field, new science, very, very useful to analyze the emotional reaction of the people. We use medical technologies and tools in order to evaluate which part of the brain is activated when the people look some stimuli like spot advertising, packaging, web page, and so on, or when they taste something. And in this case, we are inside the neurogastrophysics field, because the neurogastrophysics is also a new approach to very, very interesting to analyze the effect of some environmental factors like such as light, sound, or other stimuli that can change the perception of the flavors of some product or some beverage. And we use the technology from neuromarketing field in order to evaluate the emotional reaction to the people when they taste something and so on. So today we will talk, as I've been told before, about two big areas, two big arguments. One is which kind of tools we use in details, and another one, the problem is the ethical aspect of this approach. About the tools, and now we can have the possibility to offer to your attention the new tools that we have, because they change every month, every year, and for us is a very big problem, because we wanted to use the best tools, and this is very expensive. But anyway, I will show the main technology that is possible to use in this kind of studies. So one of the more famous tool is the eye tracker. There are a lot of types of eye tracking, and particularly we have the display bar in a computer, and it's possible to use the glasses. And in this case, we use this kind of tools when we analyze the reaction of the people in the field, for example, in store or in cinema or in an exposition or in the street, for example. And but now we have also another very interesting tool, is the virtual reality with inside the technology for the eye tracking analysis. And this very new, is very interesting because with this kind of tools is possible to analyze the in virtual realities, for example, a store or a packaging in a virtual situation. This is a very interesting approach. Of course, the application are very, there is a very huge area of application, and but I remember you that the output are very, very useful in order to evaluate the efficacy, for example, of print advertising, or about the picture or a color that we can use in a web page and so on. I want to show you some output that we can have with these tools. Of course, if we wanted to compare which is the best picture able to attract my attention with this instrument, it's possible to see that the picture that you can find in the right part of this chart maybe is more attractive. And in this chart, you can find a specific output. The name is heat map, and where there is more color, red color, there are more fixations, or more people are looking in this part of the picture. Of course, this output for us is very important because it's possible to compare different stimuli, and so in this way it's very easy to define which is the best image for a web page, for example, or for print advertising. Of course, in this video you can see the application of the eye tracking in a store. For example, here this is a study about the reaction of people inside a store, a supermarket, and in this video you can see the name of this output is scan path, and the movement of the eyes of the people when they're looking at an area. Of course, this output is very useful if we wanted to analyze the effect of a label of a bottle of wine, for example, if it's possible to see this label inside a very complex imaging like this one. So with this instrument, it's possible to see if the label is so attractive, and it's possible to see if the label can go outside this complex imaging. And we can change this, of course, is another output. The name of is heat map. As you can see, there are some bottles very able to attract the attention of our sample. The application are in a different field. For example, we can analyze the advertising in public area like this one. This sportive event, and it's possible to see if the advertising is able to attract the attention from our sample. And in this chart, it's possible to see better the scan pattern, and this is the movement of the eyes of one person that is trying to buy a bottle of wine in this web page. So the trip is so long, maybe is not so easy to find the button of e-commerce. Maybe it's necessary to change the design of this web page. Of course, it's possible to have the integration of the output that we can have from the eye tracking, like in this part of the chart, with another tool, the EEG, electroencephalography. In this part of the chart, you can find the result of EEG, and the meaning of this index is the engagement, the positive or negative valence, emotional valence. And so it's possible to stop the video, and we can understand why we have a positive or negative reaction, looking at which part of the web page the people are looking. Of course, it's very very funny sometimes to find that there are big difference in, for example, men and women, and we know that we have a very different approach to the vision of stimuli. The men look usually in a straight way in the main aspect of the label, for example, and the woman go around to take more information from more details of the image. And you can find usually this kind of output in the label of a bottle of wine, but it's possible to see the same reaction to the pint. For example, in this picture, very famous, the Giudizio Universale of Michelangelo, and this is the reaction of a man, and on the right you can have the reaction of the woman, and you can see that the men usually look straight on the main aspect of the image, and the woman go around to have more details. In particular, they are so attracted by the face that you can find in this picture. But this is a normal reaction. With the eye tracking, it's possible to have also quantitative data. For example, we can analyze a little part of an image, in this case, packaging of chocolate, and from this area, it's possible to have information about the sequence of the vision. The entry time is how many milliseconds we spend to arrive there, and the dwell time is how many milliseconds the people stay looking this area. So we have a very incredible information about the ability of some stimuli to attract, in order to attract our attention. And the application, of course, are a lot. This an analysis of a bottle of wine and so on. But for example, if we know that this information about a fact that you can find a product is very important for the consumers, we can analyze how many steps is necessary to arrive there. And in this case, maybe this information is the last information that people find in looking this packaging, and this is also the name of this output is compact, and maybe it's better to change the position of the color for the main information, very useful for the consumers in order to decide to buy this kind of product. So in this way, we can analyze every packaging, and we can decide which is the best position for the main information, for the main images, and so on, for the position for the brand, and all the ingredients for the product. This is a very interesting application. This is the information about the fat that is possible to find in this product, and with the tracking, it's possible to see that no, very few people look at this information. But if I change the color, if I change the position of this information, like in this packaging, it's possible to see that many people look there, this information. And in this way, it's possible to drive the attention, the vision of the people. This is also a problem that we will talk about, the ethical approach of the application of the neuromarketing and neuroscience in the business area. Of course, for us, it's very important to compare the reaction of men and women, but also in old consumers and young consumers, Italian consumers and foreign consumers, and so on, but also expert and non-expert, because usually they have a very different approach to the analysis of stimuli. For example, the expert, the non-expert are very interesting to have more information about, for example, the sustainability of the product, for example, or information very not important for the expert. If we look in this chart, we can see that the sommelier expert on the wine field are very interesting to look at the name of the brand and the type of wine. But for the non-expert, the main information are the alcohol degree and the organic certification and the capacity of the bottle. That usually is the same, but for them is very important, maybe because can understand the meaning of this information. But anyway, using this chart, it's possible to understand that the organic certification, the sustainable certification is very interesting for the non-expert, more rather than the expert, and this is very interesting for us. In this video, you can see an application of the eye tracking in a store, and when we use this kind of study, we give a specific task to the consumer. The task is, for example, you can find in very short time a bottle of prosecco or champagne, and we analyze how many minutes, how many seconds spent to arrive in the best in the area where it's possible to find this kind of product. In this way, it's possible to analyze if the organization of the space, the organization of the store is good, or if the indication about the organization of the product is good, or is it easy to understand, and so on. So the task in this case was you can find a bottle of Amarone, and you can see that this person spend a lot of time to arrive in the area where is the Amarone. This is a problem for the store, a problem for the organization of the space. This is, of course, the synthesis of the data, and we can offer to our company client the indication about which part of the area is so attractive and which part is not so attractive. And they can change the organization of the space, the lights or the signal in order to improve the attention of the people in some area, maybe where possible to find the best product or the more expensive product, and so on. Of course, another tool very important for us is the EEG, electroencephalography, and in this case we analyze the reaction of our brain. And now the electroencephalography is perfectly synchronized with eye tracking. So in this case, it's possible to see which is the activation of the brain and which part of the area of the product is able to attract and to activate our brain. So now we have a lot of kind of EEG, expensive or very cheap. Of course, there is a big difference in the output, but it's possible to find a very cheap tool also to understand the meaning of the waves in our mind. For example, the Muse is a very cheap EEG. And with this instrument, it's possible to analyze our ability to control our meditation and the ability to relax our mind and our body. Is a very interesting tool for our students in order to understand the meaning of the waves in our mind, in our brain, and so on. We don't use this kind of product for the neuromarketing studies because it's too simple, and we use a very complex instrument like the Epoch with more channel. And for example, the B-Alert is a very complex instrument. The cost, of course, is completely different because the cost of Muse is about 150 euro, and the B-Alert, the cost is about 10,000 euro. Of course, the output is completely different. And another instrument is this one that we use for the analysis in field, and very interesting. So from this kind of instrument, it's possible to have a lot of very interesting index. For example, we can have eye engagement. The engagement usually is related with our emotion and is positive or negative, or it's possible to analyze also the engagement like a cognitive engagement. We have a cognitive engagement when the people are looking, are thinking about something, or they have an overload because the stimuli is so complex, the web page is so difficult to understand, and so on. So we have high engagement, low engagement, distraction, overload, and so on. But the main index that is possible to have with this instrument is the valence, positive or negative, and the emotional balance. And we know that it's possible to have the different activation of our brain, and we know that if we have more activation of the prefrontal cortex compared to the other part, the left part of our prefrontal cortex, we have a negative reaction. We have a negative balance. If we have more activation of the left prefrontal cortex compare the other part of our brain, we have a positive reaction. Of course, in this picture you can see that we now are using a very complex EEG with 52 channels, and I remember you that you can find in a sanitary area, in the medical area, EEG very complex with 100 channels. So if we improve the numbers of channels, we have more indication about the activation of our brain. We can have a map of activation of our brain. And in this moment, we are using a very complex EEG for more information about the memorization, for example, or the attention of the people, the valence, cognitive engagement, and so on. So in this video, you can see a scan path and the EEG, the output of the EEG in this part of the chart. And here Here we have the positive or negative engagement. And you can understand that this output is very useful in order to improve the design of a web page, in order to improve the ability to the web page to attract our attention in the main area of the web page, and so on. I want to show a little application of the EEG. And I want to use famous in neuromarketing studies, a famous experiment about the reaction of the people, men and women, to advertising. In this case, the advertising the launch of Diet Coke many years ago, and I want to show something. The output of traditional instrument and the output of EEG, electroencephalography, of a sample of people that are looking this kind of spot. I will show you the spot, and then I will talk to you about the results, about the output of neuromarketing and traditional instrument. I want to say before your vision this spot, the target of this spot was female, woman. And after the vision of this spot, the psychologist asked to the woman if they had some reaction and what they think about the spot. And the woman say, "Oh yes, it's very interesting, very nice this spot, but it's not so engaged. My engagement is not so high, but it's very nice. It's cool. Is quite good. It's possible to use. Why not?" I want to show the video, and then we talk about that.
For my 11:30 appointment? I'm here for my 11:30. And 11:30? 11:30?
I don't want you to be no slave. I don't want you to work all day. But I want you to be true.
No wonder it's so hard to get an appointment here.
I just wanna make love to you.
Okay, now maybe it's very difficult to find this kind of spot in today, because maybe there is not so respect to the woman. Anyway, it's very strange to admit that they have an engagement because there is the man in this spot. So they say that yes, it's normal, it's a normal spot, and I don't have any kind of engagement. In reality, if we look at the electroencephalography output, it's possible to see that the engagement, there is a very big engagement. There is a positive engagement, in particularly in the female. This is the output of male, and this is the output of female. And I remember you that the left, the meaning is the activation of the left part of the brain, and the meaning is the positive emotion, and the right part of the brain, the output is a negative emotion. So if we compare the output of male and female, it's possible to see the big difference, in particular when we have the man with the Diet Coke. Of course, the people don't want to say, the women don't want to say that they were so engaged from this kind of picture, of course. But with this instrument, it's possible to see which kind of the activation is possible to have, and the real reaction of the people. The application of the EEG is very, there are a lot of applications. For example, it's possible to use the EEG in order to evaluate the correct price of a product. This is the output of a very famous study from of Starbucks, and Professor Mueller, a professor expert in this kind of application, pricing and electroencephalography. It's possible to see that we have the best activation of our brain only when we have a correct link between price and product. Of course, if the price is too low or too high, we have low activation of our brain. Another instrument is this kind of rings, and for the skin conductance, for the heart rate and respiration. We have another instrument for the respiration, and in this case we analyze the skin conductance with this instrument, and the skin conductance and the heart rate are very interesting index of intensity of the emotion. So with electroencephalography, we have the valence of the emotion. With the skin conductance heart rate, we have the intensity. And this is an application in virtual reality. The last tool that we use, the last software in this case that we use, is the face reader. The face reader, you know that we have a different movement of our face. Every movement is linked with a specific emotion, and you know that one of the main experts in psychology and the psychology of emotion is Paul Ekman, and he was one of the main experts in the recognition of the emotion using the movement of the face. And we know that we have 6 universal basic emotion, and for every basic emotion we have some movement of our face, and the face reader is able to have a perfect recognition of this kind of movement and the correspondent emotion. Of course, we analyze the expression, but I remember you that we have also the micro expression. The micro expression is very, very, very speed, very, very short. It's impossible to analyze this kind of micro expression using the face reader software. So in this case, it's necessary to use a manual analysis technique with an expert. And in this case, we analyze with a video the movement of the face, and we decide which kind of emotion is linked with some movement of the face of the people. This is a typical output that we have with the face reader. The software, the name of software is Noldus. As you can see, this kind of software analyzes 3 areas of our face: the frontal area, the zygomaticum area, and the last part of our face. And it's possible in this case to have information about how many happiness and so on. Very, very interesting. But I think it's very important to have more information about the emotion from different tools. So if I have information about the emotion, positive or negative, from the EEG and from the face reader, maybe the data about the real emotion of the people is more valid. And so in this laboratory, I think it's very important to have more tools synchronized in order to have more information from the same stimuli. If we have more information, of course, we have more indication about the real emotion that we have. So the second part of my presentation is about the ethic aspect of the neuromarketing. During the last presentation, we talked talked about the bias, about the irrationality, the unconsciousness, and so on. And we know now that we are not a thinking machine, that we can have emotion, but we are an emotional machine that can think. The situation is completely different compared to the many years ago. But the problem is the ethical aspect, because with this instrument and knowing that the people are irrational, and that there is a very big area of our brain automatized and unconscious, so the problem of ethics is a big problem. But I think the real problem, the problem of emotion, the ethical aspect are two, particularly the privacy and the potential control of our mind. So about the privacy, the problem is not so strong, because when we ask to the people to come in our lab, the people know that we will use neuroscientific approach to analyze their reaction. So the people are so aware about the application of this kind of tools and this kind of strategy. Maybe the problem is when you put this kind of instrument, for example, the face reader, in a store or in a public street, in a public building, and the people don't know that you are analyzing the face. But also in this case, we don't have personal information. We don't know the name of the people. We analyze a big number of people altogether. So it's very difficult to have personal information. I remember you that in every store there are a lot of camera and for the video recording of your behavior, and it is very important for the store in order to understand the dynamics of the movement inside the store. Usually, in order to have a solution to some problem about the privacy, you can find an indication that it is a video recording area. You can find this indication in the street, in the building, in the store. With this indication, we can record the movement of the people. And I remember you that we don't have information about the name of the people. So the privacy in this case is not a real problem. Maybe the problem is the mind control, because, for example, I can change the color of a restaurant in order to improve some flavors. For example, I know that if I use a red color inside the tasting room, it's possible to improve the perception of sweetness of the wine, for example, the chocolate. If I use the green lights, it's possible to improve the acid reaction to the food. But I remember you that, yes, it's possible to change a little bit, but no more. A bad product remain bad, but a good product can change in better. This is possible to do that. But when we talk about the mind control, maybe we can remember that sometimes these are oversimplification, because it's impossible to find in our brain a buy button. It's impossible to have a buy button in our brain. It's possible to improve the attractiveness of some product. So if we have two different products with the same price, but different product, I know that the product with the best packaging, the packaging with more color or with best quality, this kind of product has a more probability to for the pickup of the people. And this manipulation, this marketing. So when we talk about the neuromarketing and the ethic in neuromarketing, I think it's more important to talk also about the ethic of the marketing and the ethic of the companies, because now the companies have a new instrument, a new tool, a new strategy. And I think this is the problem, not the tool. It's like the internet is bad. The internet is bad or is good. Depend of the user that we do about the of internet. So I remember you that for all people that work in neuromarketing, there is ethical code. We are a member of one of the main association in neuromarketing. The name is Neuromarketing Science and Business Association. There is a website of this very big association, and all people that work in this field respect the code of ethics in neuromarketing. But I think the real problem is the approach of the company. Is the approach of the marketing of this company. And I remember you that now there are a lot of studies about the brand reputation, about the transparencies of the companies and so on. And yes, you can change a little bit with your communication or the quality, the perception of the quality product, but you don't. It's very difficult to change in very radical way the characteristic of the product. About the mind control, however, I want to talk other 5 minutes to 10 minutes, no more, or maybe less, because we have a very, very short time, about Richard Thaler. Richard Thaler is a Nobel Prize in economy, and he said that it's possible to push with a nudge the people to have a correct behavior. For example, this is a nudge. In the right, you can see that in the right you can stay in the left of this escalator. You can go, or in the other picture you can see how it's possible to reduce your kilocalories by climbing the stairs. This is a nudge. In this case, I offer you some suggestion about the correct behavior for your wellness, for your objective and so on. For example, if I wanted to reduce the obesity, I can use this kind of nudge. We can use a very smaller plate for example, in a restaurant, in order to reduce how many people, how many foods take the people during the lunch. Or I can placing the ice cream or dessert inside the fridge with opaque glass in order to reduce the vision of this kind of product. Or we can change it to different line to separate account for high-calorie product and for normal product. In this way, you can reduce some non-correct behavior. Or, for example, if I wanted to improve the physical activity of the people, I can use this kind of solution. You can find this kind of solution in some underground in Moscow, in other parts of the world. If you move your body in order to improve your physical activity, I will give you a ticket free of the underground, and so on. There are a lot of nudge. But we can use also the color of the plate as a nudge for example, the food of the children. And maybe we have a very, very short time, but maybe Margherita can talk about that.
Yes, thank you, Professor Russo. And on the wave of this correct behavior, we can talk about some suggestions and thought in order to improve the correct food consumption behavior among children. I'm going to share my screen with you to show you a little. Oh, share screen, okay.
There is one question, very, very, very short, about what's the most effective tool for neuromarketing analysis, the consumer behavior. I think the best solution is the use integrated different instruments, because it's very important to have information from different tools, EEG and face reader for emotional reaction, heart rate and skin conductance and respiration from intensity, and the movement of eyes with eye tracking. So the best solution is the integration of different tools.
Okay. Can I? It's okay for you?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Do you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. And now we are going deep in this short presentation that is in line with what Professor Russo was saying, and also in line with our previous presentation. Last time we talked about the role of senses in the consumption choices, but also in the right behavior that we can take toward food. And this is an interesting experimentation with children. And we aim with this experimentation to verify if some environmental variables, that is the color of dishes and the role of music, the background music that children were hearing during the food consumption, had a role on the perception of the taste of food. We used 10 children aged between 6 and 12 years. And as for the methodology, we made 2 specific focus groups in which children were tasting 3 kind of dishes, that was carrots, julienne carrots, caciotta cheese, and fish balls, in particular, little fish balls. And we had 2 experiment conditions. The first one was related to the tasting condition of the same product with 2 different colors of dishes. That we had a black dish and a white dish, in which we put the same product, but we asked to children to say us their perception of this food. And the second testing condition was made with the presence of a different background music. One was the high frequency, and the other music was with a low frequency music. And as for the questionnaire, we used a very friendly interface for children with these faces, emoticon, as you can see, and the scale, if we can say that, range was ranging from very, very bad and very good. Therefore, we try to measure the taste preferences of children with this very, very friendly interface. And to measure and to identify the food comparison between the white dish and the black dish, we use this very, very easy scale in which we ask to indicate if in the white or black dishes they tasted the the flavor more sweet or bitter or acid or salty, in order to understand their perception of differences between the food that I remember it was the same product but put on different dishes and different conditions as for the music in the background. And these are our first results. This is for the carrots situation. Here you can see the sight level and here the taste level. And as for the sight level for carrots, we see that children preferred the white dish. And this is understandable because children find more sure with familiar dish. We usually use a white dish in schools or at home, and this is quite ensuring for them. And this trend is confirmed also with the tasting evaluation when we ask them to compare the food taste within the white dish and the black one dish. And carrots on the black dish was not so liked by them because it tasted, in their opinion, as sweeter and less savory. And this is the first trend we see that is in line between the sight and taste. But if we go to the cheese situation, we see that some differences. At the sight level, we confirm that the white dish is preferred by children. But as for the comparison between taste between the two colors of dish, the black dish is preferred in this case because black dish seems to make the cheese sweeter, and children, this is the sweet bar, and children prefer this taste. So here we can see a first modification, a first role of the sight in this experiment. As for the fish, the little fish bowl that we ask to eat to children, we see that the color of dishes here you can see has not a particular role in the perception of food. Therefore, they prefer both the colors of dishes, the fish in the different colors of dishes. But in the evaluation of the differences between the two color of dishes, so the food in the color of dishes, again we see the trend that we found for the cheese situation. The black dish is more appreciated because, again, the fish was more, it was sweeter and less salty. And this is interesting in order to understand how to propose healthy food, in particular to children. And the last data is referred to the role of music, and in general we saw that the satisfaction on dishes were higher when they were listened to high frequency music, and this is also an interesting on the way children perceive and experiment the relation and the experience of food in particular. We can do some final consideration that we already done during the data, the description of data. And in this case, we saw a discrepancy between the sight level and the taste level, because even if children need for regularity and consistency between what they are with their daily experiment with food, it's interesting to see how senses can modify the perception of food. And I remember that in this case we are talking about healthy food. And for children, and to suggest correct food behavior and healthy food behavior, this experiment, even if we are not able to generalize data because we use a small group of children, but this experiment is useful, we think, to try and to begin to depict and to suggest some initial and important element to design suggestions and intervention to allow children to have correct food behaviors, not only attracted by the colors and the funny packaging of the food, but also to develop a sense of acceptation and smell that is linked to the acceptation of healthy food. And this is very, very important to activate strategies in schools, in families, in daily life for healthy consumer behavior. So if we know that we can act on the role of senses to develop the healthy behaviors, it's an interesting starting point for these little consumers that are children. Okay, this was the last slide.
Thank you, Margherita. We have two other questions. One is how will be the development of neuromarketing in the coming years? And the other one is about the effect of environment and or if neuromarketing is possible to use the neuromarketing to improve the sustainable behavior and so on. About the first indication, I think in the future we will have different tools, very cheap, very functional for valid data, and able to have a good synchronization with other tools and in particular with virtual reality, I think. And maybe we can have also a best integration with in artificial intelligence and better integration with the traditional methodology of marketing research. I think the neuromarketing and the neuroscience in the business is not a new way. I think it's very important to have the integration of a classical instrument and the new way of neuromarketing, because it's important to have the analysis of emotional reaction, unconscious reaction, but also is also important to have information about the opinion of the people, the awareness of the people, and so on. The two ways are all important, because it's impossible to have a correct analysis of the market without looking at the emotion and without looking at the rationality. So I think in the future we will have more efficient tools in order to have more information, valid data, and a better experience to improve an integration between the neuroscience output and the traditional methodology, output from traditional methodology of research. About the environment, yes, of course, I think this approach is very useful in order to improve pro-social behavior. There is a very big, interesting indication. We are working a lot with no-profit organization, for example, UNICEF and other, in order to improve pro-social behavior. So we can use, of course, this kind of methodology to improve sustainable behavior, environmental, the respect of the environmental, the environment, and so on. But depend on always from the government of the companies and the public institution. So these are very interesting tools. Is an interesting approach. We know it's possible to improve some consumer behavior, and I think it's important to use this approach to improve pro-social behavior. I remember you that Sustain, the author with Richard Thaler, Nobel Prize for Economy in 2017, if I remember correct, was one of the main personal consultant of Obama in order to improve the nudge approach for the correct behavior in USA. There are a lot of consultant experts in nudge in every public institution, also in Italy, in order to improve the correct behavior. And I think, yes, it's possible to improve sustainable behavior and in the people, but depends on this from the government of the companies and the public institution, and the sensibility of these people in order to really improve the respect of the environment.
Yes, and if I can add a little part on the research on this topic, the neuromarketing research is growing more and more, facing the relation between neuromarketing and sustainability. And it is a fact.
Okay. So maybe we finish. The time is over, so we can stop here.
Yes.
Thank you for your participation, and we hope to meet you in presence, if possible, here.
Yeah, thank you very much to you both. I just want to close this section by saying that as we already told you, we will send you next week a survey. So everybody, if you want, the certificate of participation, you will have to complete it and send it back to us. So by the end of February, you will receive the certificate of participation. So I leave you, and I thank you very much for your time, your presence, and your interest. We hope that you enjoy the whole International Winter School, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you very much.